There is a fascinating story, and we've talked about human trafficking many times. Matter of fact, here in Cleveland, our own Salvation Army a few years ago built a wing to take care of women, families who have been affected by human trafficking. Dana has one heck of a story. Sadly, it started when she was 4 years old. She's captured it in this book, Abandoned But Not Forgotten. Dana, first of all, God bless you, and thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you so much.
This story plays out at the beginning when you were like 4 years old. What struck me was my earliest memory was in front of a television at the age of 5 seeing astronauts. So I have a memory at 5 years old because I can date that. You literally have this memory. So let's start with that, if you don't mind, and talk about that first.
Sure. My memory was being abducted at the age of 4, being thrown in the rice sack and carried away, God knows where, and just being extremely afraid and not knowing what's going on and why this man was carrying me on the back, in his back, in the rice sack.
Any memory of your family?
I have no memories of my family, believe it or not, until that traumatic situation has took place in my life. I don't understand why, but it's weird how human beings, when we're in our fight or flight mode, that our bodies tend to remember the bad things, even the most severe bad things that has taken place in our lives. And that was my first memory of India, was when I was being abducted and being thrown in the rice sack. But anything prior to that, absolutely not. I don't remember.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Have you studied or worked in or are working in a mental health profession now?
I am actually a caregiver, so I'm just considered to be a profession, paraphilia profession, because of my experience in life and just me just going through PTSD. And I am a high believer of mental wellness.
There's no word "just," by the way. Please don't think of "just" at any time, especially with your story, because I wanted to kind of lead you into that, the PTSD part. For you to talk about this and lay it out in the book has been a fascinating journey, and you and I both share a faith. It is amazing how God can take something and turn it into something that does benefit His kingdom. Talk about that a little bit if you can.
Yes, I'm. Even though it was a slow process for me and it was years of traumatic experience for me, I had to believe God and trust God. He came into my life when I was 20 years old, and that's when my life started changing, and I started discovering my identity, and especially with him working on my mental wellness and me discovering who I am as an author, as a person, and just being established in who Dana is. And when he came and rescued me in my life, I had found out that I was much loved and I am valuable, and I am who I am, not because I was a mistake. It was because I had to go through just so I can tell my story and also be a voice for others
and
who don't have a voice. And
a fantastic mom now, too, right? Congratulations.
Yes. A single mom, going through a divorce.
Sorry about that part of it. Your story plays out in India. I mentioned, casually here in Cleveland, we now have a human trafficking. We have a center the Salvation Army has opened up. I've been learning more and more because I think this is something we want to look the other way in society. Yes. Have you studied India much? I mean, how big of an issue is it there, this country? Can you talk about that some?
Yes, actually, before it finally drifted down to here in America with human trafficking. It's been going on for years in India and as well as other countries. It just hasn't been targeted. People haven't known here in America that in foreign countries this has been such a huge deal where back in 1980s and even prior to that, human beings were a huge commodity. And one of the ways that human beings are a huge commodity is actually through adoption agencies. And I'm not saying all adoption agencies are this way. I'm saying that majority of them are this way. It's like the Hansel and Gretel story where the house is really pretty, the candy house, and it's beautiful. It's well packaged together. But these adoption people, they're one of the people who are, considerably making $10,000 to $35,000 per child in human trafficking. And what I'm mentioning about is adoption trafficking.
Right.
And that's what I'm considering, that I'm mentioning about that because I believe that I was adoption trafficked.
Sadly, it's like preying, if you will. I mean, in many of these countries where systems are set up to target situations that they know a family maybe can't do anything about or literally fight back, and then the child can be adopted and there's money to be made then, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's absolutely correct.
You eventually were literally rescued, right?
Yes, I was. Even though I was rescued and I didn't know what exactly was going to take place in my life, I was brought into an orphanage and then I was adopted. But sadly enough, that I'm one of the few people who went through abuse in adoption and not really go through the life circumstance like most children usually go through. But it's one of those things that you just can't predict because of adoption trafficking, where a child's life is going to be placed. And without a choice of my own, of course, because I'm very young, I get placed with an abusive family. And then that's where I deal with PTSD and narcissistic abuse.
Just the struggle of going through what you went through, you finally find a family through adoption, which, you need to have a safe place. I mean, we all think of a family, we think about that family structure and safety, and then to go through a horrible story then, I mean, many people, it's one or the other. You've had to live through both, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And that's what I'm mentioning about adoption trafficking, because of the fact that you don't know where your life is going to land. And then when it does, you're like, oh, my God, what is this? And it's not like you chose the life for yourself. It just happens to be that way. And then you have to claw your way out if you can even survive. And not many people can survive through what I've been through and then mentally be there. Even though many times I can mention to you, I felt like I was going to go crazy and I felt like I wasn't going to mentally be there and, just being able to finally be here and tell my story and say, I struggled through, and then with just being able to even be stable in my life, stable in my mind, because of the trauma was so extreme. I had to fight my way through.
You write in great detail, and I just want to quote here. We're in Chapter 4, 1992. Another adoptee and you are woken up by one of the house moms early in the morning. It's like 3 a.m., usually several rotating house moms who look after various sized children from small newborn infants to 8 years old. You write in great detail about so many of these tragedies in your life. You've obviously had professional help with PTSD and all, but did writing this also help a bit with with trying to work through this?
Yes, it did. It actually did. I remember when I heard the voice of the Lord back in 2008, he told me to write my book, and he told me I knew why. It was important for him, that I needed to write my story. So this has not been an overnight journey for me to write my story. It's been since 2008. that I've been writing this story and then going through the healing journey just to get to where I'm at now.
Dana, finally, we've talked a lot about adoption and trafficking. Again, you don't want to paint with broad brushes, but, I mean, if anything, this is a great reminder for someone who is, I mean, God bless somebody who wants to be an adoptive parent, but do the research on where that child is coming from.
Yes, absolutely. I highly recommend that you do the research, you find out if you're ready, be committed to educate yourself, be committed to culturally bind your culture as well as their culture with theirs, along with just be ready, because you don't know where the child's life has been and what they could be going through.
Your son or daughter, by the way, you have now?
I have a daughter.
What's her name?
Samar.
A beautiful name. Beautiful name.
It means battlefield commander.
Beautiful name. Dana, thank you so much for your time, your story, for taking the time. God is obviously working in your life. Nothing but the best to you each day in the future, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
In the future, okay?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.